The warning signs for 9/11 were there, but our leadership was asleep at the wheel.
Long before the Twin Towers fell, Al Qaeda was waging war against the United States in places like Yemen. It was there, in Yemen's Aden harbor, that an Al Qaeda terrorist carried out a suicide bombing against the USS Cole, a U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer. 17 U.S. sailors were killed and 37 injured in the October 2000 attack, which should have been a wake-up call for the West. Commander Kirk Lippold was the commanding officer of the USS Cole when Al Qaeda attacked. He's featured in the great new Daily Wire documentary, USS Cole, Al Qaeda's Strike Before 9/11, which revisits the warnings America missed and the decisions that followed. Take a look.
Al-Awali told us Al Qaeda is planning to attack a U.S. Navy ship as it's refueling in the port of Aden.
There was a lot of warning out there to the ships. Did the Cole get that information? I can't tell you.
Bin Laden was getting very antsy. What could be next?
I don't think we missed any specific threats.
It wasn't if it was going to happen, it was when the United States was going to be attacked.
They were walking into a trap. I saw a boat coming at us. They were close enough that I could see them smiling and waving. Then the explosion happened.
Two-man unit was apparently not seen as a
It
threat.
may have been impossible to prevent. Osama bin Laden had essentially declared war against the United States.
Certainly emboldened Al Qaeda.
Why were we even operating in that port? What was the intelligence community doing? No one connected all the dots until it was too late. People in the U.S. didn't comprehend that there was an organization called Al Qaeda. People living in caves, basements, who actively sought to kill Americans.
I think our government certainly had enough of the information to have done something.
They were focused totally on us. No one was looking up the chain of command.
We had an opportunity to disrupt what became 9/11.
USS Cole, Al Qaeda strike before 9/11.
And Commander Kirk Lippold joins us now. Commander, so great to have you. The documentary is excellent. It looks great, as everyone just saw, and it is so timely. The USS Cole incident happened 25 years ago. Hard to believe, but we're locked in a struggle against Islamists right now. It continues. Commander, take us to the immediate aftermath of this suicide bombing aboard the destroyer that you were commanding. What did that look like? I can't imagine the chaos in the immediate aftermath. And how do you get it together there? 17 sailors murdered here by an Al Qaeda terrorist. How do you get it together and lead?
Well, first and foremost, Eric, thank you for having me on. And I'll be quite honest, I was blessed with a great crew. I trained them hard, and every time they would...
Those relationships.
Well, Eric, thanks for mentioning, starting off with Chinagate, because I found some things there that were sort of left on the table previously. I think a lot of people don't understand that Bill Clinton was targeted by a Chinese espionage campaign. So when we talk about the amount of money that was put into the DNC campaign funds, a lot of that money went right into the Clinton campaign, and it came from Chinese intelligence officials. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. And he was targeted as part of China's subnational campaign when he was governor of Arkansas. So I go into some detail on that. I really show what happened during Chinagate. But again, one of the things that I want to emphasize is it's not just Democrats. The stuff that went on with Joe Biden when he was vice president and president is extremely bad, right? What Joe Biden did as Barack Obama's vice president, he made an agreement with the Chinese to allow corrupt Chinese companies to list on U.S. stock exchanges where U.S. investors lost billions and billions of dollars. So that's very bad. But remember, it's Republicans as well. It's a Republican administration that first set this relationship in motion, and that was Richard Nixon, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and then one of the real bad guys during this whole relationship was George W. Bush's Treasury Secretary, Henry Paulson. So it's a bipartisan issue. It's been going on in Washington for 50 years. And that's what really needs to be emphasized. It's been both parties. And the other part that needs to be emphasized is it's really Donald Trump who has worked to break us out of this terrible pact.
So, what do you mean? Yeah, we see what you're saying, but that's not what's happening. The policy of containment, what we call in Hebrew the conceptia, the concept or the paradigm through which we looked at everything, that lens, it just didn't fit. So it was dismissed and pushed aside.
You mentioned it earlier that Israelis want peace. They want to live. They want to have a hope. They want to have children, grandchildren. They want prosperity. They want a better life. Hamas is actually on record. Hezbollah is on record that is an inherent weakness. That because they're willing to die and they want to die in jihad, that they have a strategic advantage.
100%. I mean, our strength is our weakness, and our weakness is our strength. Because we want a good life, we're willing to turn a blind eye, kick the can down the road, contain the threat, not to deal with it. I mean, Gordon, look at what's happened to the world. Imagine, this is after Israel went to war, after we faced the most brutal massacre. The most Jews murdered on a single day since the Holocaust. There's no war more justified. Look how quickly the world turned on us. Now imagine, do we really think that had Israel turned again? And they're still turning. Do we imagine that had Israel gone to war without being attacked, to preempt, to prevent an October 7th, because they had intelligence, the world would stand by and applaud? Of course not. We know that. So there's something broken here. But with that said, and you hit the nail on the head, we have to understand here in the West that the values of these groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, are completely different than our values. The people of Gaza, for Hamas, their job is to be killed. Because you got to ask yourself a very simple question. And all these fake genocide accusations that are being thrown around here in the United States and Europe. Hamas had built under Gaza 300, 400 miles of tunnels, bunkers. Those are bomb shelters. How come they don't let the people of Gaza into them? And they let the cat out of the bag because the senior Hamas commander was asked this. You know what he said? It's not for them. It's for us. So what does that mean? The people of Gaza are meant to stay on top. The Hamas terrorists and commanders go underground from where they operate and plan and orchestrate their attacks and launch their rockets. But when a country like Israel wants to defend itself to attack, as any country in the world would do, the Palestinians above ground, they're meant to be killed. That serves the Hamas ambition.
The human shield.
Yeah.
Well, what's the way forward? In the aftermath of October 7th, the quote that came to me was a quote from World War II, General Eisenhower. The world has yet to see the awakened fury of a democracy. And, it was our Pearl Harbor that awakened us and the fury that got unleashed to not just Japan, but to Germany. And I had this sense that the governments, the terror groups in the Middle East had no idea what they had done. The awakened fury of Israel was going to come. And now here we are 2 years later, and the victories are just again and again and again.
Right.
And now clearly the dominant power in the Middle East. What happens now? Are we into a situation where Israel can win every single battle, but still not win the peace?
Well, this book is one side of the October 7th coin. It's the failures, it's the mistakes, it's the lessons we need to learn to prevent it from happening again. But the other side of this coin is the re-engineering of the Middle East that has taken place in the 2 years since. Iran is on the defensive, its nuclear installations destroyed and heavily damaged. Hezbollah beaten back, a shadow of what it once was. The pager attack, Nasrallah killed, his successor's successor, Assad regime gone. And Hamas, still there, not completely gone, but you've had for the first time the Arab countries, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, has brought the Arab countries together to take responsibility and ownership of what's going to happen in Gaza. And the 20-point plan, we got back the living hostages. Let's hope this moves forward to a point that we're able to get the stabilization force in Gaza, get a new governing entity in Gaza. That is not Hamas. That's what's supposed to happen. And the disarmament and de-radicalization. Lots of complicated steps. But if it goes forward, we have a new reality in the Middle East with huge opportunity. Normalization with Saudi Arabia, maybe with Lebanon and Syria. I mean, so where we go from here And of course, with Iran, we got to keep the pressure on top of them to prevent them from rebuilding their nuclear program. America's involvement in that operation, the 12-day war in June, of biblical proportion. So I'm actually optimistic when I look to the future. I say if we can learn the lessons, we can implement them, and we can take advantage of these opportunities we have, we are in a whole new reality when it comes to the Middle East. I mean, as we say in Hebrew, Baruch Hashem, thank God that we now have these opportunities.
But there's also dangers. I mean, you've got Saudi Arabia, UAE already saying if Hamas keeps their weapons and stays in power, we're out of here. This isn't, there's no way that it's going to lead to peace. And they're warning pretty dramatically. Qatar is Muslim Brotherhood, and Erdogan is certainly sympathetic, if not full-fledged Muslim Brotherhood. So if those two countries are in charge of some kind of peace force in Gaza, there's no peace there. It's just a pause and reload, and we're going to re-attack.
100%. I think what people also need to understand is that decisive victory is the most basic ingredient for success, because let's look back to World War II. Why did Japan and Germany embark on a new journey that embraced the West and Western values? It was because suddenly they changed. They lost the war. And when you lose the war, that triggers introspection. And now, militarily, they've lost. Politically, they have yet to lose. And we need that new governing entity. We need a force that can prevent Hamas from reconstituting itself. I totally agree with you, Gordon. No one's going to deploy soldiers on the ground if you have Hamas fighters who are out there. They're executing people in broad daylight. And at the same time, when we look at the region, I mentioned the upside, right? The decline of the Iranian axis. But you're also right that at the same time as Iran drops, who's going up? The Muslim Brotherhood, the Qataris, and the Turks. And this has to have us concerned. Israel has said very clearly, and I commend the Prime Minister on this, we're not going to let the Qataris or the Turks deploy troops inside the Gaza Strip. We're not going to let people who are already biased and against us. Qatar was the place where the Hamas leaders had sanctuary. It was the funder of Hamas. Turks, just listen to any time Erdogan speaks, the vile anti-Semitism that comes out of his mouth towards the Jewish people and the state of Israel. They're not the ones who are going to keep our security and our safety in the Gaza Strip. And I think we have learned in this war that while we need this country, America, as our existential ally, we can't rely on Europe. We can't rely on anyone else. We can rely on ourselves and our relationship with the United States.